Hi, my name is Michael Cronin. I'm a physician assistant and a certified diabetes educator. I have the great fortune of working at the University of Central Florida, assisting with students with type 1 diabetes. One of the important things that we do on campus is that we try to work with our individual students that have type 1 diabetes and help them learn and gain more knowledge about their own diabetes and how to manage it, but also the things that they can do to help ward off potential problems. This particular session, we're going to be talking a little bit about type 1 diabetes. A lot of people want to know a little bit more about it. It represents about 5% of the total population of those individuals with diabetes throughout the United States. And those individuals with type 1 diabetes do not make insulin, so they need to have insulin injected or given to them on a daily basis to survive and to be able to help maintain more reasonable blood glucose control. Now, insulin is the primary hormone that again helps glucose or sugar get into the cells of the body and allow the body to work and function properly. Now, the important thing is understanding is that individuals with diabetes have to balance their insulin and activities and diet to really maintain optimal blood glucose control. Now, in terms of complications, this is what we're going to talk about today. Complications are directly correlated to the level of blood glucose over time in someone's life with diabetes. And there's a very strong correlation with if individuals have optimal blood glucose control, that they can ward off and lower the risk of those complications in their lifetime. Now, serious acute complications are things like diabetic ketoacidosis, which can cause problems in relationship to high blood glucoses. Hypoglycemia, which is low blood glucoses, also are a potential problem relative to taking insulin and drops in blood glucoses. And those are the primary acute issues that we deal with. Today, though, we're going to be talking about chronic complications and how they impact those with type 1 diabetes. Chronic complications that are related to diabetes. Number one cause for new onset kidney disease and kidney failure. It's the number one cause for non-traumatic lower extremity amputations. Number one cause for peripheral neuropathy. The number one cause for autonomic neuropathy, such as things as gastroparesis or gastric emptying. Number one cause for retinopathy-related blindness. And there is a sundry of other complications that can occur in conjunction with diabetes. And it's very important for people to, again, recognize that there's ways that we can improve this. The big thing is that the good news, we can control blood glucoses, and the better we do so, we oftentimes can ward off and limit those complications. And if someone does have complications, we can hopefully hold them steady and actually lessen them over the course of their lifetime. So the main thing is, today we know that a management team of diabetes can help control diabetes control. And the number one person in the diabetes management team is the individual, yourself, or those that have diabetes. And getting a team of experts and individuals that understand the disease and help you along the way. Today we're going to have a special opportunity to interview an individual that has had type 1 diabetes for a good portion of her life. She has had some complications, and we're going to ask her some questions very pointedly about her own life with diabetes and the different complications and issues that she's had relative to this and where she is today. I'd like to introduce you to Kim Mundell.
I'm Kimberly Mundell, and I'm 35 years old. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 18. I was in my first semester here at UCF.
Now, in terms of early on in your career, do you feel that your diabetes impacted your decisions in terms of what direction you went as far as the work that you chose?
In the beginning, no, I don't think that the diabetes necessarily, made me choose one way or the other. It was more or less, it kind of fell into my lap. It fell into my lap.
Now, in the beginning, when you were first diagnosed with diabetes, tell me about the assistance or help you got from other people, like your family members or at school, at work. What kind of assistance did you get, if any, from others around you?
I got a lot of support, especially from my family, because this was a huge, a new thing to us, something that we knew little about. So everybody got involved, tried the best, that we could to, arrange the diet, get to the doctors, do the right thing. When I did go, I had to take some time off of work, and when I did go back to work, they were very supportive. I was able to educate them about it a little bit, so that if something were to happen to me with hypoglycemia or anything like that, that they would kind of know what was going on.
How about educational opportunities in terms of diabetes education? Did you have any formal training or go anywhere to get special education for your diabetes?
I had a little bit. Most of it came right in the hospital when I was in the hospital. The nurses and doctors came in, showed me how to test my blood sugar, how to, inject the insulin. From there, I met with a dietitian. She was able to help me devise a meal plan and things like that.
So beyond that initial hospital education, though, was there much education beyond that point, or was it just when you would meet with your provider, you would discuss things?
It was more when I met with the provider that I was able to, get the more one-on-one. There were opportunities there, but not as many as there are now.
Do you think that may have made an impact on you to maybe have additional education and learning more about the disease and how you could manage it?
Yes, I'm sure that it did make a difference, and maybe I could have taken more opportunities, but at that time I think that I just felt so comfortable with directly dealing with the doctors.
Now, did you end up seeing an endocrinologist? Did you see an internal medicine specialist? Who helped you with your medical care for the diabetes?
I did see an endocrinologist, and right away got an insulin scale together and insulin regimen together, and started to devise a plan.
Now, tell me about if you can remember back to the beginning of your first few years of diabetes. If you can recall, were you doing blood glucose testing at that time?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me about how often would you be testing, let's say in those first few years of your diabetes?
It was definitely 3 times a day.
Okay. And that would be what time of day?
Usually at every meal. So, morning, and then, noontime, and then in the evening.
Okay. How about with hemoglobin A1Cs? We use that as kind of an average blood sugar for a 2 or 3 month average. Did you have A1Cs being done on a regular basis?
Yes, I did. In the beginning, they were horrible. They were absolutely horrible, because my blood sugar for not sure how long had been higher than it should have been. We're talking 12, 13%. Okay. But it was taken on a regular basis, and I was able to get it down.
All right. So, and as you improved it from those higher levels, where would you say kind of where was that sweet spot where your A1C kind of got to be better?
I would say it got down to 8 and 9.
In terms of your insulin regimens, tell me what kind of insulin regimen you were on at the very beginning of your treatment.
Okay, I was on short-acting insulin. It was regular insulin at meals, and then I would have a longer-acting insulin at bedtime.
And was that NPH, or was that Lenti, or was that Lantus?
It was actually, in the beginning, NPH.
NPH, okay. And tell me about hypoglycemia. Did you have a lot of hypoglycemia in the beginning?
In the beginning, no, here and there. And I did have several episodes of ketoacidosis where I landed in the hospital.
Okay. And in terms of the incidences of diabetic ketoacidosis, in the first, let's say, 10 years of you having your diabetes, can you recall approximately how many times you may have actually experienced something like that?
Unfortunately, I had it more than anyone would like to experience it. I couldn't tell you how many times, but it was more than I would ever want anyone to experience.
Okay. Was there a point where you said, I want to do better, I want to improve my blood sugars?
Yes, it was more in my late 20s, right before I got pregnant with my daughter. And things really just started to kind of snowball a little bit faster than they had been. I mean, I had a lot of trouble with elevated blood sugar for a while, but it just seemed to kind of get worse. And when I was pregnant, I actually started taking blood pressure medicine. Then it was like, I knew, I was pregnant, I had the diabetes, and it was kind of all coming together. So it was kind of hard for me to determine, was it the diabetes? Was it being pregnant? It was both. But after having my daughter, things just kept getting worse.
Prior to your pregnancy, can you recall the first incidence of having a complication? as far as symptoms of a complication that may have been brought to your attention by your endocrinologist?
I honestly did not have anything that I recognized. Something that became a complication early on there with the pregnancy was the elevated blood pressure. And of course, now I know that that's really kidney related as well. It relates to the kidneys.
Sure.
But I did not recognize anything offhand, that it was actually discovered through blood work.
Okay.
My kidney function after the pregnancy actually decreased even more. I was told, that it was related to the diabetes and the blood sugar issues that I had, and that there was no way to reverse it, but it could certainly be slowed down.
Tell me, at what point in terms of when you got pregnant, how many years had you had diabetes at that point?
I guess it was about 10 years.
Okay, so about 10 years before really seeing that initial complication.
Yes.
Okay. Were there other complications that gradually kind of set into your life after that?
Yes, the gastroparesis.
Tell me what that is.
It's delaying of the stomach, and for me, it tied right hand in hand with the high blood pressure and the high blood sugar. And when all those things are not in sync, it's very hard to keep anything down. You just don't feel well.
So tell me what kind of symptoms, if you woke up and you had gastroparesis, what kind of symptoms might you display?
Nausea, vomiting, stomach ache, diarrhea. That was the issues for myself.
And with that, could you eat if you felt that way?
No, absolutely not. I wanted nowhere near food. Nowhere near food.
Now, part of your control with the diabetes is taking food in so you can take insulin.
Absolutely. So that posed a huge, huge obstacle for me because, it was the sugar would, be high, then it'd be low because I hadn't eaten anything, but I didn't want to eat because I was sick, and it was just the snowball effect. I mean, it just, it was hard. It was very hard.
Sure. Any other complications or other issues that you developed during the course of your or post-pregnancy when you started noticing these things?
It was mostly the gastroparesis and the kidneys. With the kidney issues, it was swelling, a lot of swelling, which of course is the fluid retention, because the kidneys are not filtering, fluid properly in my body. So those for me were my primary complications.
Okay. How soon after your pregnancy did you go from having, let's say, a moderate level of kidney dysfunction to where you ended up actually having to undergo some hemodialysis or treatment for the kidney failure?
It was about 3 years. And again, they were checking my blood, constantly doing blood work. I was told, okay, the level of function is that it's decreasing, but it's not at failure, if you will. And so, they kept saying, it's not going to get any better. We can't reverse it, but we can slow it down. We can slow down the process. And kept trying, but unfortunately, I ended up on dialysis.
Okay. And during that process, as you were kind of moving from kind of like moderate kidney dysfunction to actually severe dysfunction, what kind of things physically were changing for you that you saw in conjunction with that loss of kidney function?
The swelling again was a huge thing. I was retaining fluid. I could see it around my eyes, my cheeks, my hands, my arms, my legs. I mean, everywhere. That was probably the biggest thing, was the swelling. And then, of course, the blood pressure being elevated, and that just made me not feel well,
Very good. And it is true that the kidneys do, again, help with fluid regulation, glucose regulation. It helps regulate blood pressure, electrolytes, and all of those things. So when the kidney doesn't work as well as it should, certainly, again, that is why some of those symptoms occurred. Was that kind of a bitter pill to swallow as far as, again, how you felt at that time, or what was the impact emotionally for you?
It was hard. It was emotionally, I just felt awful. It depressed me. To be perfectly honest, it depressed me because it was like, I felt almost like I'm the only one dealing with this. Why me? Why me?
Give us a brief explanation in your words in terms of what is hemodialysis. What are they doing, and how does that help you with kidney failure?
Okay, they actually you have a catheter inserted either in your chest or your arm or another place that the doctor deems fit. And basically what they're doing is filtering your blood. The blood is drawn, filtered out of the body through a special machine that not only cleans your blood, but it also, at the same time as cleaning your blood, it is taking out the water, the fluid from your body, the excess fluid. That, of course, helps your blood pressure stabilize, and also by cleaning the blood, it's getting out the bad things that the body would normally do through urination.
Now, in terms of gastroparesis, going back to this as a complication, how did that affect you on a daily basis in terms of your routines, in terms of things at home, things with family, and so on and so forth? How did that impact you?
The gastroparesis, for me, it affected me more when I wasn't feeling well, when my blood sugar was elevated or when it was low, when my blood pressure was high. That's when I started to have the symptoms of feeling sick, which would make my stomach, I would just feel awful, and then, start vomiting, and just, so when everything was kind of in line and I was feeling well, I really didn't have too many issues with gastroparesis at all. It was more when things were not level.
Okay, and how often would you say that you would experience some gastroparesis, if there would be an average amount, let's say on a monthly basis?
Especially when I started the hemodialysis, it was almost every week, I would say, of every month, definitely.
Okay. So kind of a tough thing to deal with when you had it.
Absolutely. It was very hard, very hard.
Okay. Now, in terms of your kidney failure, you had to go for hemodialysis 3 times a week. How much time per week would you be in dialysis in terms of them doing the blood filtration?
Okay, yeah, I went 3 times a week. I went Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, and in the beginning it was 4 hours for each treatment. That was 4 hours once you were hooked up to the dialysis machine. But there were, some time before and time after, disconnecting from the machine and checking your blood pressure and things like that. So I would say like 4.5 to 5 hours each time.
And tell me in terms of your energy level, because I've talked to other people about this before, and they would oftentimes describe how they would feel their energy levels would change in relationship to the days of dialysis versus the days before dialysis. Can you tell us a little bit about your energy levels and how that felt?
Absolutely. The days of dialysis after the treatment, so tired, very, very tired. I would go home and just not want to do anything. In the beginning, I would go and have dialysis treatments and go to work. And it worked okay in the beginning, but as my kidney function and dialysis went on, it was harder, and I had to eventually quit my job. And I would just want to go home and sleep all day. I mean, even walking from the car in the driveway into the house, I felt like I had run miles. I mean, I was just so exhausted.
Okay, and then the day after dialysis?
I would get a great night's sleep, and I would wake up and I would have a lot more energy, and I would be ready to do whatever we needed to do.
How did your complications in terms of your diabetes, how did it impact your family life?
I have to say, it became what family life. My complications absolutely took over my life. It took over my family's life. I spent more time in the hospital than I did at home. My family was coming to visit me in the hospital. We made jokes even that I should have my mail forwarded to the hospital. I missed out on a lot of things, and forget the big occasions. I did miss several of those as well, but just the little things of spending time with my daughter, eating dinner with my husband and my daughter, the 4th of July events, just things like that. I watched fireworks from my hotel room. I mean, my hospital room.
Well, some of the hospital rooms aren't so bad, but it would rather be in a hotel room.
Right.
Okay. Now, as far as with your outlook on life and diabetes complications, did you feel at any point that this was threatening your survival or your ability to live?
Absolutely, especially after the dialysis and just the constant visits to the hospital. Every time I would go, there are sometimes even I don't remember being brought to the hospital, but some of the times that I do remember, my blood pressure would be sky high, my blood sugar would be high, sky high, and I didn't know if I was ever going to go home again. My husband certainly thought the same. He thought, all the times I took you or we were there, were you going to even come home? And I know, other family and friends felt the same way. Just didn't know what was going to happen.
Scary stuff.
Absolutely. It was very scary.
Now, in terms of your ability to work, you briefly mentioned it. At what age or what point were you not able to work or continue to work?
It was probably about 4 months after I started dialysis, and it just became too much. I was again in the hospital more than I was at home or at work, and I knew that it was a hard decision to make, but I knew that pushing myself to go to work and pushing myself to do things was not going to make anything any better, and I really needed to concentrate on my health. And being in the hospital so much, it definitely, I knew it was serious. I knew it was very serious when I was there more than I was at home. I've been used to working, and that was a hard decision. I had, great friends at the office. I loved where I worked, and I just felt like I wasn't normal. I wasn't normal anymore.
Is there anything that you would like to share on a personal level in terms of what you would want them to know from you?
I went through a lot with type 1 diabetes and the complications, and I would say that you have to be your own advocate, and if you feel that something is not right, you don't feel right, you know yourself the best, and get the right people involved. Have the right support in place. Once you have that together, it makes things a lot easier. So that for me, is really a big thing. It's just have the right people in place and the right tools in place. And if you don't feel something is right, then it's your body, it's your life, and be in control of it.
So kind of going back to getting the team in place to help you do the best job you can with your diabetes management.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Now, I understand that you recently had a kind of a neat experience. You underwent a kidney pancreas transplant. Tell me about how this came about for you.
Well, as I said before, I was living in the hospital. It was very frustrating. Someone close to my care team brought it to my attention that maybe I should make a few changes and really look into this and see if maybe there's something else that is being missed, or if there's some other procedure or treatment that can be done. And I listened to her. Things kind of just fell into place from there. The right people walked in the door at the right time, and the team came together, and it was, we got to get you a kidney and a pancreas. We've got to get you a kidney and a pancreas. It happened.
Tell me how this kidney pancreas transplant has changed your life.
It has given me a new life. I no longer have to take insulin, and that's something that I've done for almost 18 years. My blood sugar has not been over 110 since I had the transplant, which is still just amazes me. And I no longer have to take blood pressure medicine. My blood pressure is right in range. If anything, it might be a little on the lower side some days, but right where they want it. It's life-changing. I get to spend time with my family, my friends, just do those little things, do laundry at home and not feel tired after doing it, take my daughter to school, eat dinner with the family, just little things like that. It's huge. It's a huge deal.
Tell me about complications that we talked about briefly before. Do you have any of those complications today?
I do not. Not at all.
So what happened to the gastroparesis, the nausea, the vomiting, the diarrhea?
It went away with all the blood pressure issues that are gone. They all went away.
How would you explain that reversal of those complications, those life-threatening complications that you experienced since your transplant?
I could just say it's a miracle. Not having to take the insulin anymore, not having to have these, sky high blood pressures. It's amazing. It's given me a new quality, a better quality of life.
Exciting stuff.
Absolutely. It's very
Okay.
exciting.
All right. But I'd like to ask you if you have any final thoughts of things that you'd like to share with those that are watching this interview today.
I would just like to say that, like I said before, to be your own advocate, but even more than that, to ultimately never give up. Some days are better than others. There are good, there are bad, but despite that, just keep going. There's a goal, whatever your goal is, if it's a big goal, a small goal, you can do it, and, just never give up, because, I was at a point where I didn't know what was going to happen with, my blood sugars being all out of control and my blood pressure, and I wasn't sure what was going to happen from day to day, hour to hour. I got the transplant and I have a whole new life. That transplant day was my second birthday, so never give up.